Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Today is Monday, May 1st, and today is Silver Star Service Banner Day. It's also Global Love Day. It's also National Mother Goose Day, because who doesn't like some chips? It's also National Loyalty Day. That's right. We're going to... And hold on. Oh, we got a couple more. It's also Law Day, School Principals Day, International Workers Day, because everyone loves a good worker. And it's Melanoma Monday, National Chocolate Parfait Day, Gretchen. I know you're going to love to make some dessert tonight. And, of course, today is also May Day, which is better known in the Bay Area and other places as May Day J Day. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to find out where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. Yeah, dogs. But also, make sure you participate with us in the super chat, because if you want us to actually talk about your comment, that is the best way for us to get to notice it. But coming up first, we have the dope dad himself. That's right. It's Rico Lamitte. Rico, oh my God, what is up with your background, bro? You have got your shit together today. I am so impressed. He must have unpacked all his boxes and got rid of all of his clutter. And now he's just sitting back in the back of the Mojave Desert. That's right. It is Rico Lamitte.
You digging the clean background I got going on?
I'm with it. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I just got to put my my lighting up, and I'm good to go, my G. Good to go. But speaking of good to go, got some good projection numbers by New Frontier that just came in. And they are saying that the U.S. cannabis sales are to hit $71 billion in 2030, even without federal reforms. So things seem to be looking up in the near midterm future for the U.S. cannabis industry. That is, if you are a long-term investor looking ahead at the broad industry as a whole, and not actually on the ground where things still are pretty chaotic and riddled with bullshittery. But either way, a new forward-looking report released by New Frontier Data is projecting $71 billion in legal sales by 2030, based on the current trend of state-level legalization continuing, and that's even without federal dropping any time in the near future either. The report outlines what's going on with in 21 U.S. states and Washington, D.C. that have already legalized, and companies have struggled with operational inefficiencies and the inability to scale out of state. The Safe Banking Act remains stalled in Congress, going on 4 years now, even though last week a new bipartisan version renewed hope, sending shares of MSOs and Canadian licensed producers higher. Per the article, New Frontier's $71 billion projection by 2030 assumes the current pace of state level legalization, and they're still expecting that number to hit $58 billion if everything slows down. Along with its release, CEO Gary Allen said that as more established markets across the country stabilize, the U.S. cannabis industry will be buoyed by new markets coming online. He sees strong momentum for adult use progress in 9 new U.S. markets and likely legalization for medical only in 9 others by 2030, amounting to a projected 9% compound annual growth rate through 2030. And for anybody that's a long-term investor, 9% compounding is a pretty strong number if you're looking at it in the long term there, and if you want to get into the market. The report does hit a couple of low points too, for what it's worth. For example, the average U.S. consumer price per ounce of flower has dropped 10% to $2.94 from $325.46 back in 2010. And for the first time, the oldest legal adult use state cannabis markets contracted last year. However, New Frontier still predicts legal sales to hit 35 billion this year, up 5 billion from 2022, and adult users in both legal and unregulated markets to reach 69 million by 2030, up from an estimated 54 million this year. Though they didn't really say how they were calculating unregulated users or the margin of error there, but it is what it is. I think the numbers are pretty compelling for what it's worth if you are a paper investor. However, I'd like to hear about the people that actually have some skin in the game. We got a couple on our team with us. I'm Rico Lamitte, dope as that in the street. What do you think about these numbers, Jason, Elliot? What y'all got?
I mean, I think this is just a skewed numbers just to make everybody feel better inside and make all the investors feel like, hey, you can still put money into cannabis and you're not going to lose all your money.
Yep.
What do you think, Matthew? Are you
people who grow good weed still make money? You know, you might not be making the same money you were, but people who grow good weed still make good money. We were doing a little breakdown last night. We were going through packaging and stuff and seeing every kind of packaging. Like there's the white sterile pharmaceutical packaging. There's the black with the gold foil. There's the cartoony shit. There's the totally generic. And I had this box, and the thing I was explaining to my friends was the only thing that unites everything in this box is that the weed is good. And that's why every one of these brands sells great. There's Farmer in the Felon, which is orange with a stencil on it. Like there's not a single through line in any of the packaging. It's just about who grows great weed. If you grow great weed, you can stay in the game. It's going to be difficult for a minute, but there's always going to be a place for you. If you're trying to, like I always say, if you're trying to create exponential growth and generational wealth and 10 times your investment, and you got an exit plan, it's time to exit the weed game.
What do you think about this study, Ellie? You have any comments on this? These guys skewing these numbers. They're skewing the numbers to make it look.
As far as they put out, they're not dynamic. So they didn't think the California rec market would go down here either, and it has, and it's going down further. So, assuming 90% growth is a lot, I wasn't paying too close attention, but I always laugh when somehow they have an accurate number of black markets.
Well, Elliot, on this one, I was specifically asking you and Jason and anybody else with actual plant touching skin in the game. With New Frontier says 71 billion in sales projected by 2030, and a 9% compounded growth rate from now until then for anybody investing on paper. Do you see that on the ground happening? Do you see that as accurate?
Look, I can't really speak for outside of California, but everything's been half my day looking at busted portfolios. All their numbers are substantially down year over year. Bragg, we're an anomaly that we have stores that are up year over year, and I'm not talking new stores, age stores, that have too much debt. They're looking for people to take over their portfolio or their deals going. Almost everybody's down year over year. So I don't know what this is in California, those numbers on, but from what I see, year over year sales, say from, what are we, April of 2023 to from April of 2021, store over store, unless it's a brand new store and growth rate, sales are down. Legal sales are down.
Yeah, so I think we're calling this story bad data in, bad data out.
However, they're talking about like the projected growth in new states too. So I mean, it would be interesting to hear somebody from a emerging
nationwide, right?
Yeah.
We're talking nationally. I mean, there's still a lot of growth to happen. So of course, by 2030, I would hope that every state had some kind of regulation in place that made sense
Right.
to some,
Yeah.
at least medical.
Okay, I'd like to say, full disclosure, my career started at New Frontier Data. I spent 5 years there. I know how they do their data. I know their modeling. Their numbers are generally fairly accurate. So I would take what they say and go with it.
Well, look, if they're opening up new states, I will concede that I'm sure the numbers are going to go up a lot. About California, if Texas has no weed and they get weed, yeah, of course they're legal marketing. So I'm sure there's some growth in that sense. I'll be curious to see if the black market versus the legal market over time, if they don't reform the policy, is the black market.
With that being said, Gretchen, since you have insight into it, like how do they go about calculating the unregulated sales?
Well, they don't calculate unregulated sales.
That's what they predicted in this one.
Would they have a number there on the black market?
They said.
I was unable to read the story. So
Yeah.
No problem. Anyone that's calculating the crap market is all full.
That's exactly what I was.
I would love to hear how they worded what they're saying for the illicit market.
Predict legal sales to hit 35 billion this year, up 5 billion from last year, and adult users in both legal and unregulated markets to reach 69 million by 2030. My question was like, how are they going about calculating or putting in estimating how much of that's going to be accounted for by unregulated markets?
It's a professional guesstimation.
Yeah.
I would say that they're probably basing a lot of this off of seizures and that sort of thing, customs. Just hold your horses, Chief. However,
I'm a commander.
Yeah. And I will say, yes, while I started my career at New Frontier, that was 4 years ago. And when I was there, we did not do the illicit market because, like you say, that is something extremely difficult to determine. So I don't know how they are coming up with it all of a sudden. I'm more than happy to ask them and get back to y'all tomorrow on how they came up with a number for the illicit market.
I would love to hear that, but I'll tell you what, any company that's going to extrapolate numbers for the illicit market, the best part about that is that they can never get proven right and they can never get proven wrong.
It's wonderful PR.
Exactly. So it's kind of like politics, right?
I wouldn't call it.
You can project what you want and blame it on extenuating circumstances for nothing getting done.
I will say this: if it's 70 billion and 35 billion is legal, 50% is black market. So that alone makes me sus. Like, you call, they say, 50% of men cheat on their husbands, and they took really that was not an effective way to do it. So it's like by the way, I'd say no, it would be true, but like I'm sure that that the guy, and you say, hey, you're in black market sales, how many packs are you selling? Like, he's not gonna, like, that's not even a great question that you could even ask. So, and there's no way to go around to every single farm in Humboldt to count up the amount of cannabis coming on to the marketplace. It's just not possible. But I'm
with you on that one, Elliot. I'm not buying it. And we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, you know what time it is. That's right. It's Tuesday over here at Green Street, and we got Smoky Vanilla with us in the building. So that's right. It is time to stretch and smoke. We just got done smoking. Now we're going to stretch it out, and then we're going to smoke again.
Let's go. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology and bodywork massage and assisted stretching. You got to come check it out, baby. Check me out on IG at Smoky Vanilla 1, Stretch and Smoke. Twitter, Smoky Vanilla. Social Club, Stretch and Smoke. We're also on Sports Recovery by Dan and Jam.
If you want to feel as good as I look, then make sure that you get a stretch and smoke in with Smoky Vanilla.
Yeet!
Too loud, you let me know. I mean, if I'm too soft now, let me know.
You're never soft enough. You're never soft enough. Just in touch with your feminine side. TG. You know how it is. Y'all know what time it is. Hyatt Nine's head honcho is hitting the road again like Willie Nelson, and the industry's longest continuously operating retailer, the highest Republican in the game, West Hollywood president of cannabis tourism, is smoking the best weed in the world. Up now. Come to the stage next. Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck.
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago's on tour too, right?
Well, actually, I know this looks like Mar-a-Lago, but actually, we are in the lair of Saint Germain today.
Oh
yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
St. Germain's upgraded a bit.
We were out in. No, we have traveled to Transylvania, and we are currently broadcasting from the castle of the
Maravania.
The Germain. Yes.
Which is also where the former First Lady is from, correct?
I'm not sure.
She's from Slovenia.
Slovenia, yeah, bro, you're tripping. You're stretching like Gretchen right now.
Just saying.
Nonetheless, today my story involves someone I think a lot of you may know and who happens to be on the show joining us today. That's right, Catalyst CEO Elliot Lewis puts the grass in grassroots for Long Beach. That's right, Catalyst Cannabis, a local business in Long Beach, focuses on giving back to the community despite heavy regulations and taxation from the city. Party on Pine was a block party hosted by Elliot Lewis, CEO of Catalyst Cannabis, which focused on uplifting the community and reviving a once lively Pine Avenue. Packed with businesses, the family-friendly event brought together various and local and licensed vendors together, and all proceeds went straight to revitalizing Pine Avenue. However, increased regulation fees imposed by the city pressured Lewis to shut down the event. In a quote, "They made it super cost prohibited," Lewis said. "They wanted 11 freaking cops all on overtime to watch a party that had 0 incidences." Catalyst has worked to bridge the community together through various events in its outreach branch of Catalyst Cares. This outreach program has provided services and products such as backpacks, food, and even Christmas trees around the holidays. In a quote, "People aren't seeing the Catalyst Cares side of it," Lewis said. "Catalyst Cares really is the heartbeat of who we are." Despite the small setbacks with the cancellation of Party on Pine, Lewis continues pushing forward and garnering momentum on their Weed for the People movement. Catalyst has long been working with the legal guidelines provided by both the Senate and the Department of Cannabis Control to help distribute free cannabis to patients in need. The Medical and Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act as the framework of regulation for the Department of Cannabis Control. Catalyst Cares acts as a conduit to help provide medical cannabis at least once a month for medical patients in need, as written in the law. Legislative Senate Bill number 34 states existing administrative law provides an exception to this prohibition for specified medical retailers and micro-business licenses to provide access to medical cannabis patients who have difficulty accessing medical cannabis goods as specified. Many of the shops Catalyst now manages across California were previously independent dispensaries that were drawn toward Catalyst's mission. Lewis and the whole of Catalyst's extensive staff have taken on the role of advocates for other localized cannabis businesses across California. Catalyst's most recent victory was April 18th at the Long Beach City Council meeting, where city council members voted unanimously to provide qualifying Long Beach cannabis dispensaries with a new tax relief program. Catalyst continues to struggle with excessive taxation on local businesses, even within a progressive city like Long Beach. Big cities like Long Beach have been continuously increasing taxes, which directly affects cannabis workers and sellers in the city, driving more and more customers to buy illicitly. In a quote, "The little cities are a little more sympathetic too if they want to make 5% in tax and they need the money to plug the shortfalls, then that's fine," Lewis said. "As I looked into the budgets here and I started speaking out, that's when we got heat. This is unique to Long Beach. Taxes are often primarily reason legal cannabis prices have skyrocketed, especially in the city of Long Beach, which passed Measure MA in 2016. The same year, cannabis was legalized in California. Measure MA is one of various local cannabis taxes unique to Long Beach that dispensaries must pay in order to be considered in the legal market. In a quote, their version of equity is something that gets them votes, Lewis said. It's not equitable to make money from people that make 70,000 to 80,000 a year, basically confiscate their property and give it to the public sector unions to keep you in power that live in freaking South Orange County. Measure MA sets a 6 to 8% tax on medical marijuana gross receipts, 8 to 12% tax on adult use cannabis, and 6 to 8% on distribution, processing, transportation, or testing of marijuana, and 12 to 15 taxation per square foot of cultivation. All of these added surcharges directly affect local bud tenders and cannabis specialists from achieving the goal of living wages. These actions threaten the livelihood of many that work under the legitimate business of Catalyst Cannabis and those that believe in Lewis's outspoken movement of weed for the people. Catalyst is a miracle child of the cannabis industry that managed to stay afloat by raising money through organically built locations across California. The unwanted success of Lewis's business has placed him in a unique position to represent local cannabis shop owners throughout California. And we are fortunate enough to have Mr. Elliot Lewis with us today to comment on this. And all I have to say is, this is Jason Beck reporting for High at 9 News, and we're about to bring you some weed for the people.
Weed for the people.
Yes. What do you have to say about this, Elliot? Long Beach. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. Yep. There we go. Yep.
Is that better there?
There we go, buddy. Yes, sir.
The club. I'm going to turn off the clubhouse.
Turn off
I'm on both. Somebody said I was getting skipped.
No, turn off the house. Turn off.
If I ever could figure that would be my lucky day. Can you hear me good on this? This is easier.
Perfect.
Leave this one. All right. Well, look. I just want to say this. You know, and Sean's talked about the regulate model is really just a symptom, and why this story is kind of important. Obviously, it's nice to get a little cover. I'm always glad to be on High at 9. My pit bull agent, Ken Anna, there got me on, promoter. I thank her for that. But you know, and two things I'd say. One, the long paper down here would never cover this story because they're never critical of the current administration. So this is, you know, a little newspaper, Long Beach State, a couple of young kids that came out and did this important story to cover. To me, the issue with cannabis is that they can tag us because we're not big enough to organize and lobby and change policy. If we were oil, if we were pharma, you name it, tobacco, right? We'd have our own lobby. So because we are who we are and we're small and we don't have big lobbyists in Sacramento or watching us. And when we're trying to do something good, which was the whole origin of Party on Pine, it's still only about the money. And it just got to the point like we never had any incidents on overtime. And look, we've done the research on the overtime in the city of Long Beach. They make like 50 overtime. None of them hardly even live in Long Beach. And the entire cannabis tax is $13 million. You know, the amount of damage is doing. So it's just really bad policy. It's really a symptom of what the government's, it's, you know, and this is not a political statement, it's a policy statement. Confiscating property from people and giving it to those that can't. That's our government in a nutshell on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, Long Beach is all about overtaxation and overregulation, as I've witnessed a number of times. Being at the Party on Pine, the excessive amount of law enforcement that they have doing undercover investigations for absolutely no reason, with no true just cause, other than for pure harassment purposes, that the overall taxpayer is having to foot the bill for at excessive rates. And what was the overtime hour rate in Long Beach for law enforcement, Elliot?
It's 95. We knew we were going to be there. So as Jay Beck knows, he was photoed hanging out officer through multiple requests of information and thing which they've tried to deny. We know there's no less than 15 cops that investment bar on Anna's that trumped up a bunch of charges. And this is the whole free speech is if you speak up against the policy and you talk about our overtime, we're going to make your life top of knowing that they wanted to charge for 11 cops. I think it's $95, $98 now. It's a ridiculous amount of money. They also, we have proof that they targeted before we even opened, had undercover cops there on the first day we opened was not only are they overtaxing and over-regulating, if you question the system for which accustomed to just, using to stay in power through special interests, then you become an apparatus, which it's not supposed to be used for, to target anybody who we've dealt with both. And again, this is all stuff the Long Beach Post knows. I make fun of them, talk shit to them too. I hope they're listening. Long Beach Post, you're all soft as fuck. Some kids from Long Beach State fucking news article, but it's just bad policy. Again, cannabis is never going to be taxed and over-regulated. New York didn't learn shit from California. I think it's hilarious. Stupidest idea we ever had. It's a continuation of the war on drugs. And frankly, the people 1,000 times smarter than the people enforcing from the government, because we figured out how to line up the planet and put them into positions of power. They don't know a motherfucking thing about policy.
Oh, no cussing.
How am I going to talk?
All right. Cussing.
I'll try.
Cussing. But quick,
right, Elliot?
One quick question, because I do feel like this is a very big, gross overreach of government power, putting pressure on people that speak out about big government. Do you feel as though you and President Trump have something in common because of this overreach of the government?
Well,
ad time.
I will say this. I'm Trumper, but I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. Funny enough, there's a couple jokes going around that I thought was kind of funny in Long Beach. It seems to be a thing that Long Beach officials problem locally, because in other cities, and I got to watch it a little bit. I apply and try to win licenses. We get into our resume and why we should win. And the last thing they want is a guy in there talking shit about the police. Those guys are part of the decision making. Look, I'm a Long Beach resident, born and raised there. Kind of speak out as not just a cannabis operator, but a resident, and get a little deep. There's no doubt that there is similarities. They're trumping up charges to try to silence, the movement or what we're saying or our speech, or like, hey, like shit in my life, like a lot.
They are trumping up charges. They are trumping up the charges.
Oh my God.
The thing that really is the third rail that you cannot say anything about at all. As soon as I brought up overtime, right, of police and fire, which is their gravy, you're more in overtime than they make in base pay, $300,000-$400,000, taking money from our guy in a city that claims to be super progressive. It's a joke. It's a big hypocrisy, but
I couldn't agree more with you, Elliot, but we have to move over to the next story. We're on. Yeah, we're a very short show, and we try to get in a lot of information. But thank you so much for joining us and being here with us today.
Appreciate y'all for having it.
We truly appreciate it. Yeah. Oh yeah, coming up next. That's right. It's our feisty little redheaded conservative from Washington, D.C., the founder of Panoptic Strategies, who loves to dress up her dogs in crazy outfits and parade them up and down Capitol Hill. That's right. It is Gretchen Gailey.
I think you're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Since I'm such a lover of facts, I do want to clarify for those where we were discussing in Rico's article, New Frontier did not predict any numbers in the illicit market. They were looking at users, not money. Go
69 million.
How would you predict?
They're talking about people.
How would you predict the amount of users in the illicit market?
Because they definitely survey people, but that's a whole other story. I've been a part of the surveys before. Yes.
I'd guess 16. I'd guess 69 or 420. Anything. 420
Whatever.
million.
My point
69
is,
million.
Yeah,
nobody.
I owe you one.
nobody was predicting an illicit market number. That's why I was surprised when Rico, you suggested that they had. Anyway, my story. I picked today.
Directly from the story, 69 million.
Go back and
Illicit
read the numbers. Read the sentence. Read the sentence.
Unregulated and regulated users.
Bless your heart. Read the sentence.
Off, Rico.
Anyway, back to me. Back to me.
Back to Gretchen.
My headline. I picked this just for you, Jason Beck. I saw conspiracy, big government, all sorts of ethics violations, and I thought of you.
And of course, it came out of Oregon.
Of course. Ethics questions raised over Oregon Secretary of State's side job as cannabis industry consultant. Oregon Secretary of State is defending her decision to moonlight as a consultant for the owners of a troubled marijuana dispensary chain. At the same time, state Republican leaders accused Shamia Fagan of ethics violations and called on her to resign. An elected official cannot take funds for personal use from someone they regulate, Senate Republican leader Tim Knopp and House Republican leader Vicky Breeze Iverson said in a joint statement. Governor Tina Kotek also spoke out on the issue Friday evening, calling for the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to investigate Fagan's actions and for the Oregon Department of Justice to look into a recent audit of cannabis industry regulations. It's critical that Oregonians trust their government, Kotek said in a statement. That is why I'm urging the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to immediately investigate this situation. Additionally, I am requesting that the Oregon Department of Justice examine the Secretary of State's recently released audit of the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission and its cannabis program. As Willamette Week first reported, Fagan started working for the owners of Lamada in February. The company and associated businesses have racked up millions of dollars in unpaid taxes and face numerous lawsuits for not paying their bills, according to court records. Simultaneously, Rosa Cazares and Aaron Mitchell, owners of Lamada, made big donations to top Democrats, including Fagan. It's not clear what type of work Fagan is doing or how much she's being paid for her side gig. A spokesperson for the Secretary of State explained Fagan is consulting on projects outside of Oregon. The situation is complicated by the fact Fagan oversees state audits, which include the audit of Oregon's regulations on the cannabis industry, the very industry in which she's been hired to act as a consultant. Friday, during a press conference about the audit's findings, Audit Director Kip Memmott explained Fagan recused herself from involvement after taking the consulting gig. The secretary was not involved in the reporting process, reviewing the report, providing feedback on the report, or any of the conclusions at all. Several news organizations have reported Fagan was involved in the audit dating back to early last year, and the audit was largely done by the time Fagan pulled out. As Oregon's Secretary of State, Fagan earned $77,000 each year. While unusual, it is not unheard of for statewide elected officials to take on side jobs. Fagan also teaches part-time at Willamette University. Prior to taking the consulting gig in February, emails provided by the Secretary of State's office indicate Fagan reached out to state ethics investigator asking for clarity on conflicts of interest. Oregon law bars public officials from using their positions for personal gain. Fagan did not seek a formal opinion from the State Ethics Commission. A spokesperson for the Secretary of State argued that because she voluntarily recused herself from the audit, Fagan faces no conflict of interest. Secretary Fagan prioritizes her public service and completes any work for her private contracts during her free time, according to her spokesperson. I think this is just insanity. And I deal with a lot of crap on Capitol Hill. This is ridiculous. And I don't see at all how this woman is getting by trying to pretend that she did nothing wrong here. This is why people hate the government. This gives cannabis a bad name. This is bullshit. They need to get rid of her. Can I say bullshit? I don't know. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
This is horse hockey.
Yeah.
This is just stupid. I mean, the Hill, we have tons of rules. In theory, a staffer is supposed to disclose who they go on dates with, and you're not supposed to let someone buy you a drink. Now, we all know that doesn't happen. But I mean, there's tons of rules on what you can or can't do, and I don't see how Oregon doesn't have any of them. This is nuts.
Gretchen, would you call her the cannabis industry's Clarence Thomas?
Thank you, Rico. I was going to say the
far.
corruption just comes from the top down.
Yeah.
The fish rots
let's
from
start
there.
right there.
This is nuts.
Let's talk about the real. Let's talk about Joe Biden too. Let's talk about all of them.
Yep.
My shirt is
There's
not red or
long-
blue. It's maroon with a rainbow on it, right? Like let's get away from these teams and let's really talk about it. Corruption from the very top down. Clarence Thomas is the most glaring example right now, as Rico mentioned. Like, dude is just straight crooked. His wife is crooked. It's so transparent, and the Republican leadership would earn points with me if they just acknowledged it. We're just real. Like, hey, let's take this guy out. And it goes back to the same thing that I'm always pushing for. You know, I'm like Don Quixote fighting against windmills, but integrity in leadership. Over to y'all.
Gretchen, it didn't say where her contract was out of. Is that correct?
What do you mean where it's out of?
Like, she's working in Oregon, but is her contract in another state?
No, Lamota, it's MOTA or Lamota, I don't know what it is an Oregon business. But they're claiming that she was consulting on strategy for other states, not Oregon.
Got it.
I mean, this is just crazy to me that she could even think that this is even possibly within the realm of ethical for her position as a regulator.
I wonder what she's saying now. Like, I didn't know I couldn't do that.
Yeah, this is just. I mean, I wonder if she is related to Hunter Biden.
Oh dear Lord!
Oh goodness sakes!
Well, I wonder.
I mean, they all think that they can just have all these different types of positions and do all these types of different, consulting for all these different places.
I don't know what happened to your audio there, Jason, but check into that.
I cut him out. I turned his audio off. I'm tired of it. I just wanted to say it's cool having Jason stay here because I saw the daily email he gets from Fox News for all of his talking points.
Oh yeah.
Does he write them in all caps and Sharpie in front?
I mean, even if there is no specific law here on taking these side gigs or whatever, this group also made major donations to her campaign. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's not okay.
That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous problem. But
you gotta get better at hiding the dead bodies. That's all I gotta say.
Oregon lets you do whatever you want. You can have whatever drugs and just be a total drug addict out in the streets and whatnot. So why wouldn't they let all their elected officials just be consultants in whatever manner they want to make money?
It sounds like you're describing downtown Los Angeles, Jason.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to be right back.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you get over to our website, highat9news.com. Make sure you check out this amazing merch that we got popping up on over there. Also, too, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, and you will get a confirmation newsletter in your inbox. Make sure, but it may also possibly go to your spam or junk mail, so make sure you click that because you will not be officially subscribed until you click that link to officially subscribe. Run it, Adam. Come on.
Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. Up next, he is a immortal cannabis wizard with a PhD in tripping balls, and he used that valuable Hogwarts liberal arts degree for a vetted entrance into the cannabis industry, where he spent over the last 3 centuries in sales, marketing, cultivation, time travel, and transporting the best weed in the world up to Santa Rosa from West Hollywood. Y'all know who it is. Up next, the illustrious Mathieu St. Germain.
Thank you, Brother Rico. Happy Monday, everybody. Forgive my fading appearance. It looks like I'm transporting into another dimension where I grabbed this story from. This story is both exciting and has a little bit of something to be wary of that I'm going to talk about. So in a phase 2 trial, individuals with major depressive disorder experienced significant, rapid, durable, and beneficial effects when treated with LSD. The treatment resulted in a significant reduction of depression symptoms compared to those in the control group. Exciting breakthroughs are happening in the mental health industry as MindMed, a biopharmaceutical startup, has released initial results from a phase 2 trial that evaluated the effectiveness of LSD in treating major depressive disorder, which is going to be called MDD in this article. In collaboration with Switzerland's University Hospital Basel and the University Hospital of Psychiatry, and the results are very encouraging. According to the study findings, LSD has the potential to alleviate depression symptoms in individuals with MDD with significant, rapid, durable, and beneficial effects surpassing those observed in the control group. So I'm just really excited about this. The reduction in depression symptoms was roughly 4 times greater in the LSD group compared to the placebo group. Super quick side note, LSD along with exercise is probably the 100% cure for depression. The statistically and clinically significant improvements observed in this study reinforce preliminary findings that have shown the clinical potential of lysergide in anxiety, depression, and other brain health disorders, said Robert Barrow, the CEO of MindMed. Maybe LSD can help me with my stammering. Let's take a look at the clinical trial in question. The phase 2 study led by Felix Muller and Dr. Liechti involved 61 patients with MDD who were given 2 doses of LSD 4 weeks apart. The high-dose group received 100 micrograms and 200 micrograms a second time, while the low-dose group received 25, which is kind of like a microdose, and it's about the minimum amount needed for them to detect the lysergic acid in your blood. 6 weeks after the first administration, the clinician rated inventory of depressive symptomatology scores, and these were used to measure the primary outcome. Depressive symptoms were assessed through a scoring system where responses to the items were added up, resulting in a score between 0 and 84. A higher score indicates a greater presence and intensity of depressive symptoms. In depression, we think of 6 weeks as one of the most important time intervals because that is where most of the antidepressants have been assessed for primary outcome measures, and so that's a regulatory mark where they want to focus. Based on over 20 studies with hundreds of patients, the findings show that LSD consistently produces positive results and has the potential to alleviate symptoms of major depressive disorder. I think that's really important. According to Swiss collaborators, 16 weeks after the initial dosing, a significant and rapid improvement was seen in the high-dose group, with statistically significant reduction of 12.9 points compared to only a 3.6% reduction in the low-dose group. In simpler terms, individuals who were administered LSD had an average symptom reduction that was almost 4 times greater than those who were given a placebo or a light dose. Historical studies of LSD and MDD demonstrated rapid, robust, and sustained improvement in depressive symptoms. We also observed improvement in depressive symptoms in patients with anxiety disorders in another one of our recently published trials. We believe it was necessary to confirm the historical studies with one using modern methods. Hence, we designed this randomized controlled trial to assess the benefits of lysergic acid treatment in MDD. Importantly, an active small dose was used as the control. We are extremely encouraged by the results we presented today, which demonstrated the strong, rapid, and enduring improvements of this compounds in patients suffering from MDD. Now, I'm just gonna. There's a ton of the article. I really suggest you all read the article. I want to come down here to where MindMed, which is a publicly traded company. I own some stock in MindMed. They're announcing that they're using a lysergic acid analog called MM120. Now, why this is important is all of these companies are going to be trying to tweak the delivery method and or the molecule slightly so that they can patent these psychedelics and corner them, make money, and shunt them into the regulatory system. And now something I didn't really realize, I'm going into editorial mode right off the bat here. Something I didn't realize in my own history of psychedelic usage is I had a real lucky life. It took me a long time to figure that out. I was, a crybaby. And so
Count of Saint Germain.
Psychedelics for me were immediately uplifting, and I wanted to do them in freedom and in nature. What I've realized in my travels is a lot of people have quite a bit of trauma, and the therapy model is really good for them because doing high doses of psychedelics with a lot of trauma and no mentorship can really end up in bad places for you. And so I really support the MAPS model and the therapy model for those who have large scale traumas and as a road to legalization. I also want to caution people, don't ever get horned into thinking you have to pay $12,000 to get some psilocin or psilocybin from a treatment center. Go find some mushrooms. They grow wild. Cubensis mushrooms go wild everywhere in America. Go with somebody who can hunt them. Find you a good connect for LSD. Don't be afraid to try these substances on your own. Winding back to the article, you guys, what we're seeing with both psilocin, LSD, ketamine, and the majority of psychedelic substances is they are non-toxic, incredibly therapeutic and beneficial to the human race. And it appears as though they can shortcut the chronic need to take SSRIs for a lifetime through direct ecstatic experience with the divine or something akin to it. And I've talked long enough, so I'd like to take this to my esteemed panel. What do you guys think?
I mean,
oh,
go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, I mean, I'm a former mental health practitioner, so this gets me very excited. There's so many people in this world that are suffering from symptoms of depression and anxiety, and especially post-COVID, there's been a massive increase in suicides. And any way that we can provide relief that is more effective than what we've been offering people for the last, several decades is huge. One of the things that gets me the most excited about this is the speed at which it happens. When someone goes in to see a clinician regarding their depression, oftentimes you're dealing with a hodgepodge of figuring out which medication is the right medication, which is the right dosage. Then you're also needing to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on therapy and doing all these things in conjunction. And there's still not even a guarantee. And not that LSD is the guaranteed fix-all, but I think that shortens the need for therapy time and should be probably a primary method for treating, in my opinion.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens in our brain, not just with depression, but with learning and with all mood states and really our personality states, is particular neuronal highways, particular pathways between brain processors get ingrained and grooved in, kind of like a record groove. And one of the things that LSD has been shown to do is to depattern the brain. So if you've gotten some depressive grooves in and you've really honed in on that, LSD can kind of free you and give you a wider perspective on your life and your own brain physiology from your own consciousness. And so maybe you can get out of that groove. Mm-hmm. And again, I wanted to mention, exercise has been shown to be up to 400% more effective than therapy alone. Exercise alone, 400% more effective than therapy alone. And I think it really comes down to, number one, exercise and just like blowing the pipes out and getting your mental together through really giving yourself some struggle every day. And then LSD, I think one of the biggest things LSD does and these psychedelics do is they really let you know inside of yourself that you are connected to something that is greater than yourself. And just that can really help people to feel like there's a greater purpose for life. And they also, they show you where you're bullshitting yourself and where you're bullshitting other people. And hopefully they give you a little bit of impetus to fix your relationships and yourself.
I always say that LSD kind of is it's a clarity creator, and it allows you, like you said, to feel more connected to things. I think oftentimes people who are feeling anxiety and depression don't feel connected, right? They feel isolated, they feel separate, they feel like no one understands, no one gets what they're going through. And if we can administer something like LSD in just a few short hours or minutes even, they can begin to see that they are a piece of a bigger picture. And that little tiny element alone is so incredibly powerful in just the tip of the iceberg of treating depression. And this is such a fast way to get there instead of having to play, let's see which medication works, and maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Has LSD been decriminalized?
No, sir.
No. Don't get caught with LSD.
No.
Yeah, we don't have any. We never have any. I just read about it.
Stacey Knox in the Clubhouse chat, she says 6-month treatment for MDD could cost about $400,000. It's about $3,000 to $4,000 per day for intensive care, and LSD could be a more economical option and exercise, she says.
Yep, absolutely. It's much more cost effective, significantly more. I mean, this is just piggybacking on more of what's happening in our medical system when we get charged astronomical amounts for things that may or may not work, and take an extraordinarily long amount of time to find out whether they are effective. They're harsh to our bodies. There's always some kind of long-term consequence for playing, Russian roulette with pharma. Always.
So they'd probably be looking to synthesize this shit too.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next, it's going to be Manndie Tingler. She's the mom that loves to show America how being a cannabis executive can lead to an amazing lifestyle with motherhood, being a CEO, and being out in the limelight, as well as being an Emerald Cup edibles judge. How she does it all, I have no clue, but that's right. It is the Manndie Tingler.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to wrap up today's show with a story that kind of piggybacks actually a little bit off of St. Germain's article. The headline comes to us from KSW Channel 8 News in Vancouver, Washington, and reads, "Researchers look at cannabis connection to suicide attempts." The connection between cannabis and suicide attempts is growing, according to WSU researchers. And although there is more to learn, it has experts concerned. The connection between cannabis and suicide attempts is growing, according to these researchers at Washington State. And although there's more to learn, there is acceptance and use of cannabis in our culture, and it is certainly increasing in both Oregon and Washington and other states. Recreational marijuana is sold in a variety of forms. Data shows that at the same time, accidental cannabis poisonings have increased. Now, a new research study by Washington State University of Nursing looks at intentional cannabis poisoning connected to suicide attempts. And that means that for whatever reason, someone intended to commit suicide with cannabis on board. So they're implying they're trying to overuse cannabis to kill themselves, said WSU professor Tracy Klein. One of the several researchers involved in the study, Klein is quick to note that the vast majority of the suicide attempts, more than 92%, involved other substances in addition to cannabis. And the data cannot show a direct causal link between cannabis and suicide attempts. That said, based on analysis of data from U.S. poison centers, researchers found suspected suicidal cannabis exposures have increased 17% annually over a period of 12 years. And Klein said that this is troubling, especially looking at the results for certain age groups in the last 2 years. We're seeing a great impact over COVID-19 to women and children in our data. We saw an increase overall during the study period in cannabis poisonings that increased year by year. And remember, these are intentional poisonings, said Klein. The researchers said another issue raised by their research is the cannabis self-medication factor for those with mental health conditions that may already make them more prone to considering ending their lives. So we're very concerned about patients with depression or anxiety who are also using cannabis, perhaps with little direction, and may already be making them more prone to considering ending their lives. We are very concerned, I'm starting this line over. We're very concerned with patients in depression or anxiety who are using cannabis, perhaps with little direction, and are either not talking to their healthcare professionals about it, or their healthcare professionals are simply not asking them. Although the findings of the study don't draw this absolute conclusion, it does show that there is more consideration and safeguard in a world increasingly open to cannabis. You guys, you know my feelings and thoughts on mental health and access to plant medicine. Very interested in continuing this dialogue just a little bit.
I mean, this is a great story. I mean, we're making
it's interesting.
Progress.
I feel like, people who use cannabis oftentimes are self-medicating in some form, right? Mm-hmm. It's all medical use in some form, and so
medical use, yes.
When we're talking about intentional poisoning yourself with cannabis, it's kind of like first of all, I hate that word, but I feel like there are people who may be looking to cannabis to numb, right? To maybe get them out of their funk. And so of course it's going to be in their system, and maybe they're trying to up the ante on it to see where it's going to take them. I don't know.
Man, your point on intentionally poisoning yourself, I mean, that could be the same thing as consuming alcohol at the same time too, from their perspective, correct?
Yeah,
How do you poison yourself with something that has no alcohol? Literally, you're possibly poisoning yourself.
We're having all kinds of sound issues today, aren't we?
Yeah, we got some little tech issues. I think that's the count is got someone working in the back doing something.
He's tripping into a new universe.
Exactly. Is open.
I'm so high right now.
Yeah, this is, correlation is not causation, and the more they look into it, I guess we'll get more answers to it. But I do agree. There's way too many outside influences other than like this person was smoking weed and they ended up killing themselves. So I mean, I'm all for more research into this stuff, and I think we will see a lot more correlation with other things in these people's lives, not just the cannabis that they ended up smoking.
Well, the
the
story does say that 92% of these were other substance involved. It was not cannabis alone.
It wasn't cannabis exclusive, yeah.
I think it's important to look at, and I hear you, Saint Germain, on what you're saying. However, we have to look at all aspects of this industry, and we have to come at things with the science and the research, and we have to be willing to look at the good, the bad, the ugly, to show that we're responsible and that we do care and hear concerns and are willing to look into things. So while we may not agree exactly with some of the findings, I think it's important that the research gets done.
Totally.
Agreed.
And cannabis has been shown to have a link with triggering schizophrenic issues and other anxiety and mental disorders.
Bipolar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's funny to say that you're poisoning yourself with something that maybe you could consume enough to kill yourself, but no one's ever been able to in the history of humanity.
Yeah. Also, what is their definition of poisoning? Like, is it, consuming a gram, 2 grams? Like, what is the poisoning level?
Well, and I think that's, Mandy, like the same thing, like when they talk about binge drinking, and it's like, all right, more than like 3 or 4 drinks, and you're like, oh, well, shit, So I think the scientific definitions are often not what we would consider them.
Yeah.
And early on in our industry, we also have to think that a lot of these articles are going to be a lot more sensational when it comes to the headlines to it. Like would it really amount to a ton of clicks if somebody put out an article right now saying that 80% of suicide attempts were done with the person with a bottle of alcohol in their hand? It's not really going to have the same panache as a story with cannabis would be tied to it when people are looking for that kind of stuff right now.
Yeah. I think the other thing we see if we look at the stories we've shared today, the stories we tend to share, is there's a major wave of disaffection and depression and all types of personality and mental disorders that are running rampant in the U.S. and in the world, because for the most part, our cultures are out of touch. People are feeling alienated. Most people can't afford the cost of living. Homelessness is at an all-time high. And even when we look at homelessness and mental illness and drug addiction and the way these are all braided together, 90+% of this comes down to early childhood trauma, sexual or otherwise, at the hands of other family members or society in general. The majority of the people that are homeless in America are products of the foster care system, and they were taken from their parents or abandoned. And then at 18, they're just thrown into the world with no life skills, no money, no way forward, no connections, and nobody. And so many of them have been so used to feeling worthless and having nothing to do that they then go into sex work and, again, drug addiction and these horrible spirals. And what we really need, I think, is all of us, again, as a nation, as a society, as a world, to just look that we're not serving ourselves, we're not serving our human family. And all of these stories point to the fact that what we really need to be doing is helping each other.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah.
It's a good positive line to end today's show.
I want to just read one last headline real quick. And I'm just going to read the headline because it has to do with some stuff that you were talking about.
Okay.
All right.
Pop it up.
All right. And so you will be able to find this on our website. This whole story will be published on our website. So make sure you go and check it out. It's pretty long. But in regards to what Rico's talking about with all this data, here's a data story for you. Because Missouri marijuana dispensaries experience a dramatic increase in out-of-state customers, and they are just eating everybody's lunch all around them in the great state of Missouri.
Nicely done.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Make sure you check it out. Go to our website, www.highat9news.com. You can make it a number or you can spell it out. It'll all get you to the same place.
Yes, I will. Every single time. But thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can catch us weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans out there showing love, support, and all that affection that keeps us rolling over here. To our live audience members, online supporters across all of the platforms tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines. Our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and respected opinions to the conversation. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, and the wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down over in Clubhouse, keeping our AV struggles to a minimum, and nothing but love going out to the haters out there. Just keep on hating, man. It's a new month, new energy. Bring us new hate, and we're going to have more and more wins every single day. As always, thank you, Cannabis City of L, the reason why we show up every single day. We love you too. And it is Monday, May 1st, 2023. The show is over. You've been blessed with today's top industry headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke it at least until tomorrow. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off today. Mathieu St. Germain, final words for us, my man, coming from the astral plane.
I'm just going to say, man, we're all related. We're one human family. I love you guys. If you change your breath, you change your life. Your breath is the programming code to the human biocomputer. That's about all I got. Love you guys.
Upgrade that shit.
Breathe harder.